Welcome back, it's your man Sam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel for all things property, business, mindset, fatherhood. Today I've got a great video for you. A mentee recently asked me, Sam, if I've got £10,000, how is it best to invest in property? So hold tight, let's go through what I would do. And before we start, remember, if you're interested in seeing more videos about property, business, mindset, fatherhood, click the subscribe button, click the like button. It really helps me out. So first of all, as entrepreneurs, as individuals, we want to create wealth in multiple different ways. So as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as individuals, we talk about one, getting rich in all the ways maybe society tells you should be rich. Again, we're speaking mainly financial here, right? The house, the cars, the nice things in life, but there's more things to being rich as well, rich in your spirit, rich in your friendships, rich in your family. We talk about getting wealthy, and wealthy means the long-term assets, the legacy, the financial independence for you and your family. And we also talk about choice, the choice to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want. Now for me, creating genuine wealth goes through 3 stages, okay? Well, you can't skip these stages. Well, you can, but it might be a bit of a bumpy ride along the way. So let me go through them with you. So stage 1 is you need to create cash flow, okay? You need to create some sort of subscription-based model or subscription-esque based model to cover your overheads. Okay, ultimately what we want to try and do is get this to replace our salary, because most people who have £10,000 to invest in property, they do it because they want to increase their passive income. They want to upgrade their lifestyle. Many people want to leave the job that maybe they don't like. Okay, so the first thing is to create some sort of subscription model to be able to cover our outgoings. So when I'm talking about a subscription-esque model, I'm talking about serviced accommodation, I'm talking about deal packaging, I'm talking about sourcing, I'm talking about this income that comes in on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, if not more frequently than that. So you're going to work really hard to build that up. Now ideally, you're going to need at least 10 hours a week to be able to implement this stuff. So you start implementing it, you start building that money up, and over time, you're not going to have to work them hours anymore. You can start to maybe scale that back down. Maybe you could get somebody on board. Or maybe you could reduce your outgoings slightly. Maybe you could reduce your outgoings, or maybe you could cut a day at work, cut your salary down to give you more time to invest in that active strategy. Now for me, this is a really important stage. Now if you've only got £10,000, and let's be honest, again, £10,000 is a lot of money, but in property and investing in property, it's not really a great deal of money. So if you've got £10,000, what you can't do is jump straight into developments. Again, you can, but it's going to be a bumpy ride. You're going to need help, JV finance along the way. So generally speaking, you can't jump straight into developments and more bigger strategies. Other strategies might include, flips, building businesses. These may be larger capital events. And the reason for that is because when you're doing them sorts of strategies, it may take months or even years for you to realize the profit. Okay, so if for example, you're investing in a project like that and it takes 12 months for you to get any money back from it, who's paying your bills in the meantime? Who's paying them outgoings that you've got? Especially if your goal is to get out of your job. Okay, so you've got to have something to be able to cover the salary, cover the outgoings, to allow you to leverage your time more to be able to move into these types of properties. So once you start to grow something like that, the issue that people have is they don't sit down and take stock and start to think about what they actually want. Now you might love the active strategy, you might love that recurring income that it creates, and you might want to scale that to the moon, and if you do, that's amazing. But if you don't, you've got to understand, well, what level are we at? What resources do we need to be able to maintain what we're doing? Maintain a level of customer service, ensure that we're doing what we say that we're doing with our clients. But you've got to understand that these active strategies, they're quite noisy, they're quite clunky, there's normally a lot to do. You're normally going to need staff sooner or later, whether that be remotely or in the UK. There's costs involved in it, right? But in my opinion, it's an amazing place to start. So before you start thinking about passive income and investing in property, think about your active income. How can you generate more of an active income, which may then be able to leverage you out of work? You may be able to cut your hours, or you might just be able to take that money and use it as a vehicle to invest more in passive investments, i.e. buy-to-lets, for example. You might love your job, you might want to stay in your job, but at least you're creating this active income to be able to fund your investment portfolio. Now, once you've done this and you have it up and running, and again, it doesn't take as long as you think. We're talking maybe 12 months to get something off the ground and start getting that recurring monthly income. You can move on to the more higher cash flowing or profit type strategies. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking, well, maybe you start deal packaging bigger things. Maybe you move on to HMOs. Maybe it's small developments, something like that. But these are the more larger capital events. So you can understand that the profit from these doesn't come in every month. It might take 6 or 12 months. It might not even come in every year. So you've got to understand that that active income that you're creating is not only to fund your lifestyle, but also to fund the projects that you're going to be moving into. So creating these larger capital events are almost like bonuses if you're in a job. I remember being in the corporate world before. I remember one of my bosses saying to me, Sam, when you get your bonus, don't spend it. Pretend you never had it and use it to invest in something, invest in an asset like a property. Now, obviously being in my early 20s at the time, I got the bonus and I blew it on stupid stuff, right? But I totally understand what he meant now. You get these maybe 20, 30, 40 grand in profit, and you can use that money to then invest further in maybe more passive assets. So within these strategies, you could be making profits of maybe 20, 30, 40, 50,000. And you might scale your active income in your deal packaging, your sourcing or your serviced accommodation business to be able to fund more of these developments or more of these projects that you're doing. But obviously when you've got that active income, it allows you that breathing space. It gives you your oxygen to be able to wait months or years to be able to realise the profit from the bigger capital events. Similarly, if the budget goes over, your refurb goes over, something happens, you've got that money coming in actively that will allow you to help fund that. Phase 3 is then investing in passive assets. Boring vanilla buy-to-lets is what we love. We love buy-to-let properties. Probably the most passive investment that you could get. It's not fully passive, but it's probably as good as it's going to get. So we could use the income from the active strategy at the start, the deal packaging or the sourcing, or from the profit builders to invest in assets. You might skip the middle step. You might think, well, I don't really want to do developments. I don't want to do bigger capital events, the flips, the small developments, the bigger HMOs, that kind of thing. You might just think, well, actually, I want to invest in buy-to-let properties, which means you might skip stage 2, that profit building stage. You might go, right, active income, I've created that. What I'm going to do now is, once I've covered my outgoings, I can then funnel all that money into passive buy-to-lets or something like that. Okay, so you've got a vehicle that allows you to fund your property, that allows you to scale more quickly. So for me, these are boring assets. They're not sexy, they're boring buy-to-lets, as passive as you can get, as little headache as you can get. They're pretty much guaranteed income. Again, nothing's guaranteed, right? But as close as you're going to get. But what I see is so many investors, they get a pot of money and they go straight into investing in buy-to-let property, right? Now, if you want to create cash flow and significant cash flow to be able to change your life, leave your job, can it be done in buy-to-lets? Well, yeah, of course it can, but it's going to take time. By the time you net down the costs, you take off your mortgage, your letting agent fees, your management costs, etc., you're probably going to be left with maybe 250, maybe £300 per month per property that you get. So again, you can do the maths on that. If you need £3 a month, you're going to need 10. And that's going to need a level of deposit to be able to achieve that. All right. If they're 100 grand properties and you're putting 25% down, okay, that's £25,000 times 10, 250,000, plus you're going to have some refurb stuff here and there, some fees, some stamp duty, that kind of thing. So you've got to think, well, can I generate that income? Maybe from my job, from my bonuses that I get, maybe I could raise the finance, or maybe, like we've just discussed, you start with a more active strategy, like deal packaging, like sourcing, serviced accommodation, all right? And you can create that active income, and you create the vehicle to almost become your own bank to then invest in their more passive vanilla buy-to-lets. Now, this is where you're creating legacy, you're creating independence, you're creating financial freedom for the long term, because, with me, with my buy-to-let properties. My exit is death. So I plan to hand these down to children and my generation and generations beyond that. It's also your pension pot. Right, I read a report the other day, they believe that by 2040 the state pension won't exist. So what are you doing to secure your financial future? So what I would do then is I would rinse and repeat 1 and 2. Your active strategy, your larger capital events, plus or minus if you want to do that or not, to allow you to then invest in passive buy-to-let properties or HMOs or something that's a little bit more passive than maybe the active stuff, okay? So these are the 3 stages, and it's difficult to skip a stage, all right? These stages are going to be completed in years, not months. So if you're looking for some sort of get-rich-quick strategy, it's not going to be property, okay? Get-rich-quick normally means get poor pretty fast because you tend to lose the money, right? It doesn't exist in my opinion. So if I had £10,000, I would create a business, deal packaging, sourcing, doing serviced accommodation. I would put some money into educating myself around that. I didn't educate myself at the start and I lost over £7,000. Don't be me, educate yourself. Put some money aside for marketing and branding. Get yourself out there, start speaking to people and get proof of concept for what you're trying to create actively. Then use that active income to funnel into either larger capital events or into passive buy-to-let properties. But it's about creating your life, right, and what you want. Some of you might want to create a property empire. Some of you might just want to increase your lifestyle, improve your lifestyle, create a pension for the future, and that's fine. You've just got to align what you do with ultimately your goals. Everybody's different. But once you create that cash flow strategy, you get some of your time back, you can then look at creating legacy for the future, for you and your family. So I hope that was helpful. Again, get an active cash flow strategy that's going to get this monthly income, this income generation, invest in larger capital events, put it into passive buy-to-let properties, continue to scale that for legacy, pension pot, your future family, and you can't go far wrong. If you like this video, hit subscribe, press like, share it with a friend. Any questions you've got, put them below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. See you soon.